Yeah. So when you're asking about that, where we're at, I think you're probably referring to specifically about the shooting that happened right in
Yeah,
our neighborhood. In fact, yeah, we saw the police cars running around. I was wondering what in the world are
right,
these cop cars driving all over the place like madmen? Because at that point we didn't know what was going on.
right.
That was actually Saturday evening. So it had started, something was up in the air. I don't even think they knew at that point. It wasn't until closer to midnight that I think they actually found bodies and so discovered that, but they knew somebody was on the loose.
Okay.
And then by Sunday afternoon is when it really came home. So I didn't even really know it. Nobody really knew anything about it Sunday morning. But what that did was it just shook up everybody. All of a sudden, Sunday afternoon, I'm getting phone calls all the way from British Columbia, where we're from, because we have family and friends there, all the way across the country. And then here, of course, what's going on, and how are you doing? Because we live in Dartmouth. This is where the gentleman's one of his main offices was and is. It's about 10 minutes from my house, just down the main street, just up around the corner. And so, yeah, it's eerie to have an experience like this. You never think it would happen in your neighborhood.
Yeah. And to be in the midst of all of this too, when everyone's isolated and
Yeah, which only adds to the stress and to the fear,
yeah,
because we're not meant to be alone. So
yeah. So in the call that we were in this past week, I love what you said about the number of victims and how people are counting it differently. Just share with me a bit about that.
well, the total number, including the shooter, is 23 that I know of,
Mm-hmm.
I'm aware of. And yet there are a number of folks who refuse to count him as one of the dead.
Right.
I don't see it quite that way. I see this as absolutely a terrible situation, but he was a broken man as well. We live in a world of sin, and that has created a broken world. And in a broken world, we do broken things. And sometimes that means small things, or we count them as small things that go unnoticed, but it can evolve all the way to big things like what we saw with this guy. And but at the end of the day, it's because of sin. The world needs the gospel. And this was a man who was created in the image of God, but he obviously did not express the image of God. Like all mankind is created in the image of God.
Mm-hmm.
He just did not express the image of God in its purity and in its true form, and missed out on that opportunity to be remade into the image of Jesus Christ and to be shone up, as it were. And that actually just kind of breaks my heart, because I'm thinking, how many other people out there are broken, even to the extent of him? Maybe they aren't showing it in the same way he did, but they're broken just as deeply, and some of them even more than that. And so it just broke my heart. So I count him as one of the lost, and would definitely say that my heart breaks for him, but also breaks for his family.
Yeah,
He had a family, and they are hurting big time.
yeah, and will be facing repercussions of people painting them with that brush, right? That they paint him.
That he was going this way. How did you raise him, or whatever? All kinds of how people are. We can be quite vicious.
Now, tell me about a bit of hope that you see coming out of this, man.
Yeah, this is what was really cool. So Debbie, my wife, and I moved here 2.5 years ago, now almost 3 years ago. And so one of the things that we wanted to make sure happened was that everybody knew who we were and who we stood for, and obviously Jesus. So we started to reach out to our neighbors. We would invite them over. We invite them over as groups to our home for Christmas. We do barbecues in the backyard. At the beginning, we're looked at as very strange. Now, in small town Nova Scotia, it's probably a little bit more open for people to connect with each other. But we're in a city. It's not a big city. It's about 500,000. But still, it brings with it that sense of privacy. So we but still planting seeds. And we'd start to see some of our neighbors come over. Not a big turnaround, though. We didn't have all of a sudden a big revival on our road. People still kind of held us off. As soon as they hear, they'll tell you everything about themselves, and then they ask you what you do, and I tell them, well, I'm a pastor, and then all of a sudden it's like crickets. They don't know what to say after that. But bit by bit, you connect out in the street with people. You keep reaching out and inviting them over, and they start to talk a little bit more and more. And when this COVID-19 thing happened, I just phoned some of the neighbors that we had got to know and just say, hey, how are you doing? Is there anything that we can help you with? Our church has now been trained in how to handle, transportations and deliveries, and so we're more than happy to help you out, etc. So just kind of reaching out to people. But again, nobody from our street. I shouldn't say it's never attended LifeBridge, but never has attended regularly. Our next door neighbor immediately to us we'd have great conversations with them, wonderful family, and they would even say, hey, one of these days we'll come to church with you. I'm not sure their background. In fact, I'm pretty sure they're not believers. Just, you can kind of tell when a believer is a believer and when somebody's not. But, are they doing the polite thing because I'm the pastor? It's kind of like, yeah, let's do lunch. Never really happens. So we're being polite and but still connecting and but not pushing. Anyways, but I do think that they're searching. Just some of the conversations, some of the pieces out of the conversations that we'd have over the years. So this tragedy, the shooting tragedy, happened on Sunday. Monday morning, I went to do my COVID-19 walk. Everybody seems to be doing those. And so I got up to go outside, making sure I'm social distancing from everybody. And but as I'm going, I have my earbuds in, and I like to listen to YouVersion while I, whether it's a Simplify or YouVersion scripture. So I'm listening to scripture that particular morning. But as I go by, I see my neighbor Shannon outside on the street. Not a real name, just so you know. And so I pull one of my earbuds out because I don't want to walk by and be rude, just in case she says something more than hello. And which was a good thing because she did. She said, as I'm going by, she goes, "Oh, Steve, I need to talk to you." And so I walked over and had a little bit of a friendly chat. We talked a little bit about the shooting and her concern about this makes me very nervous and scared, with this COVID-19 thing and this shooting that's happening and going on. And then she proceeded to tell me she does a home hairdressing business, and so she knows a lot of the neighbors. And she started pointing out neighbors and saying, well, that neighbor over there is really scared and they're having some difficulty because, in their marriage, and she knows all this stuff, obviously, as most hairdressers do, I suppose. The barber and the barkeep, right? They're better than the counselor. But anyways, so she's telling me all about different things going on in people's lives. And that person over there just had cancer a year ago. And she's been talking about different things. And she goes, years ago, I went to an Alpha and I was really helped by it. And it helped me, with a lot of issues in my life. Well, there's a lot of stuff going on. Maybe we could do an Alpha. And I was actually thinking about that today. And in fact, she goes, I remember we prayed back in Alpha. So I prayed and asked God, maybe should I talk to Steve? Because he's a priest, is what she called me. And she said, just as I prayed that, you came around the corner. She goes, Steve, I don't believe that's a coincidence. She goes, I think that we're supposed to talk about this. And I said, well, that's great. Why don't we think about this and process about it, and I'll pray about it, and then we can talk about it later. So I went back on my walk, and as I'm on my walk, I asked the Lord about having her initiate it, because if I did it, it would be the pastor on the street coordinating another religious meeting. So, but if she did it, because she's not affiliated with any church whatsoever, it's all relational and organic, then something would happen. And if she didn't do anything, well, then I would have a free Sunday evening. So I got back, and I usually turn the data off my phone. So when I got back, she had been messaging me on Messenger. And all of a sudden I get back home, get to my Wi-Fi, and all of a sudden, ding, 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 ding. She had sent me about 4 messages and said, and was all excited. She said, I started to talk to the neighbors about you willing to do an alpha with us. And she, at the end of the day, there are 6 families signed up for alpha starting Sunday night on my street. This is what Deb and I have been praying, that God would give us opportunity. Look what he orchestrated through somebody else, because they wanted to find hope some way, somehow.
Yeah, in the midst of confusion and darkness and chaos.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, I love your heart, man. I really do. One day we're going to meet, in real life.
I know. I thought of that a few times.
With everything, the difficulty and then the light and the joy in that, I'm going to be leading us in prayer following this video. So how can we be praying for you in your church?
Oh,
how about you first?
I would love prayer that Deb and I would be given the heart of Jesus so that we can shepherd well. I don't think what people need right now is more knowledge and more how-tos. They need to see the heart of Jesus. I want to smell like the sheep. The only way to smell like the sheep is a shepherd needs to be among the sheep and just to be with the sheep. And that's what Deb and I want to be, our pastors who smell like the sheep. That we would show people, especially in this time when there's isolation. I don't know how to do it, because there's this barrier of not being able to go alongside of somebody and just hugging them and holding them and praying with them physically, but somehow that God would give us wisdom and give us opportunity to be those types of shepherds who can just love and care and show the heart of Jesus in light of all of this.
That's awesome. And for your church and for Alpha, anything specific?
Yeah, that we would see people come to know Jesus through the Alpha. Absolutely.
Amen, man.
Yeah, wouldn't that be so neat? That is so cool. And I would love to see more pockets of this happening throughout our church too. We made it a point not to invite people from LifeBridge to be part of this Alpha, but we've let people know about this Alpha and encouraging people to maybe start to see if they can do that in their own neighborhoods. Having said that, this is so organic. I mean, it's tough to maybe try to replicate this, but at the same time, God's not doing this by accident. It wasn't an accident for him, and it wasn't something that was thrown on his lap. He's already orchestrated this. So possibly could he not be orchestrating this so that others can be encouraged to do this in other areas. So we're trying to encourage others with at LifeBridge in their own neighborhoods to invite people to their own alphas, and we're going to show them how to do it. We have a special page set up on our LifeBridge site now that people can go to with resources and specifically for Alpha Online.
Oh, that's so awesome, man. I like, you just inspire me. And, what's that?
It goes both ways.
Good. I wanted to make sure we caught that,
Don't edit that part one.
No, that's right. I'll make that really, really loud. Yeah. No, I think you're exactly right. I think it's time for us to, like God's not stumped, right?
No.
At all, right? But he may be asking us to do new and different things, which is kind of scary, but.
Yeah. And I think it's so cool that in this day and age, for such a time as this, we have the technology and the opportunity to be able to connect in this way, whether it's two churches like us together connecting, two pastors who, we're even different denominations, but we love the same Jesus and we love each other as brothers. And we're here to serve each other. But also to have the opportunity locally to be able to still connect with people, to have prayer times together, to share resources together. It's phenomenal that God is giving us this opportunity.